What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about Cha-Ching, The Judging Eye by R. Scott Bakker. So for some of you, you know that this has been a very anticipated read for me. Personally, last year, the Prince of Nothing trilogy just blew me away. It worked its way beyond God tier status and into the masterpiece territory of my heart. You know, it's a 6 out of 5 stars kind of deal for me. So I was very excited to start the next bit of this journey. So for those that don't know, the Aspect Emperor series is it's separate from the Prince of Nothing trilogy, but at the same time, them combined make up the Second Apocalypse series. So I know that kind of seems a little confusing, but this is what I want to say. This is its own series, but at the same time, I would not jump into this bad boy without reading the Prince of Nothing trilogy first. For one, you're just denying yourself a masterpiece, like I said earlier. But two, it just would fill in so much of the context and just backstory and history of the people that you're going to be dealing with here in this book. So, not a good idea to skip Prince of Nothing and go straight into Aspect. But for whatever reason, I still want to say it's its own separate series. Also, with that being said, guys, there will be some minor spoilers. I can't really get into this next step of things without, saying, hey, such and such is alive and they're in this position. So just know there will be some minor spoilers, for the Prince of Nothing trilogy. All right? All right. Let's get into it. So here in The Judging Eye, we pick up about 20 years after the events of Thousandfold Thought, and Anasarimber Kellis is the Aspect Emperor of the Three Seas. Bakker hits us with a little bit of his beautiful battle scenes right out the gate, but then also introduces the reader to a set of events that has happened that is known as the Scalping Years. This also introduces the reader to the Scalpoi. Now, the Scalpoi are men and women who are brave enough to make the trek north to fight the Shrank and collect their scalps to bring them back for a bounty. Essentially, what has happened is the Aspect Emperor has put a bounty out on Shrank so he can dwindle their numbers down to extinction. After this, the Judging Eye really does begin to form into that multi-threaded kind of storytelling that we know Bakker for. One of these threads will take place in Monem, and now, as the reader, we're pretty familiar with Monem, but the thing is, there have been some changes. One that you'll notice coming off of the Prince of Nothing trilogy is that there have been obvious changes here in the Three Seas that Anasarimber Kellis has instilled. It's just not the same place, even though it's still very brutal and a dangerous place to live. There is most certainly a different feel to this world now. And within this thread, we really will get to explore some of those changes and the ins and outs, if you will. We'll get to spend some time with a familiar face, the Shrya Maithanet, one who we might, depending on who you are, you might be really waiting to spend some time with this character, considering how much of a question mark he was coming off of the other trilogy, as well as we will spend time with Esmenet, and this is a crazy bit here with Esmenet's character, if you ask me, because this is where we watch, that character who was once a whore, who has climbed her way out of the gutter into the tip top of status. She is the Empress, but we will also see her maybe possibly at her weakest. This thread will also contain probably the more uncomfortable parts of the book, and that is really going to be the dealings of the Anasarimber children. Specifically one, but I mean, in all fairness, the Anasarimber children really range from mad to fucking psychopath. Another thing to keep track of here in this thread is going to be this cult that has sprouted up, one that is very anti-Anasarimber Kellis. They do not believe he is a prophet. In fact, they believe he is a demon. Now, it is through this cult that we as the reader will begin to hear whispers and rumors of a very mysterious person or a threat known as the White Luck Warrior. This might be their hope against the Anasarimbers. Another thread that we will cover will have to deal with the Great Ordeal. Now, the Great Ordeal is a massive army that Kellis has put together, and this is really like a melting pot of people. We know that now he's the Aspect Emperor. He rules the Three Seas, so he commands people that would normally be at each other's throats. He has got them to come together. We know that he is the master manipulator. But the thing that is crazy is this cause seems just, or almost an honorable one, done for mankind, because Kellis is going to war with the consult. And this is the thread that will introduce us to yet another character, one by the name of Sorwheel. Now, Sorwheel is a prince. He is the son of the king that defies Kellis. He defies the Great Ordeal on their march north. And this is something that will plague our character Sorwheel after his dealings with Kellis, and he is basically, kind of just enveloped into the Great Ordeal, and along the way, he struggles with the fact that his father was a man who defied Kellis, and here Sorwheel is marching along with him. This is also the thread that will bring us the older Anasarimber children, and this is actually some of the, these guys were some of the more interesting characters, and I really enjoyed this edition. They are very promising characters, if you ask me. And last but not least, we have the final thread, which contains Akamian, and this is a wild ride. It also introduces the character of Mymara, and I don't want to go too far into Mymara because of massive spoilers, but once again, you have a character that is filled to the brim with potential, and also the strongest female character I have seen Bakker write so far. Like I said before, this is arguably the main thread. It certainly is the one where we cover a lot of ground, a lot of action happens, and we're just introduced to a lot of new stuff. World building is really on the go here, and it's just a lot of fun. I do imagine after reading this book that most people's favorite parts are going to be within the Akamian thread. And like I said, just because it introduces one of the strongest characters I've ever read from Bakker in that new character of Mymara, but it also, like I said, it really puts us on the move. We get to cover ground and see more of this world. We get to be introduced to new kind of subcultures, so to speak. When we get to introduce to the Scalpoi, we will see Akamian come across the ragtag group of dudes named the Skin Eaters. These are Scalpoi men that are just, they're the rough and tough crew. And within this, he makes kind of, acquaintances, I don't want to say friends, with a group within this group known as the Bitten. And within this group, you have a character named Cleric, who is a non-man. And if you guys know me from my Prince of Nothing reviews, you know that I was plagued by the non-man. And in this thread, I'm not saying that, the mystery of the non-man is completely revealed or anything, but just being able to spend more time with these mysterious beings is fucking cool. Akamian and the Skin Eaters have quite the journey ahead of them, though, and this one will be somewhat reminiscent of Tolkien and the Fellowship, as well as one that really does mirror the Mines of Moria, but on a different level. I mean, it's Mines of Moria turned up to 12, add Dante's Inferno, Dark Souls, and some other shit. I mean, it is fucking amazing. Alright, so I could probably talk, but I want to save that for my spoiler video, so let's just start getting into some stuff. Right out the gate, I want to talk about Bakker's writing style, because for fans rolling off of the Prince of Nothing trilogy, it's there in spades. It's very powerful, it's lyrical, and it can smack you in the head, it can smack you in the heart. It's there in spades, baby. But I will say, there is a massive tonal shift between the Prince of Nothing books and this one. When I was reading those books, it was like you got those biblical and like Dune vibes, whereas in this one, you really do get Tolkien vibes. It feels very much more like a fantasy journey, not maybe such like an introspective ride, where Prince of Nothing feels like it's an infinite amount of layers. This one feels like it is layered, but not infinitely. And that's not a bad thing. Honestly, I do think that there are going to be people that find this more accessible to them, to their style, that they can digest it easier. But I also do think that there are going to be fans of the Prince of Nothing style that roll into this and find it a little uncomfortable in certain ways. I know that sounds a little rough, but you're talking about it's like, that you're going from a 6 out of 5 to a 5 out of 5 stars. It's that masterpiece to amazing kind of deal. The next thing I want to talk about is the world building in the book, because it is kind of a breath of fresh air. After spending 3 books in the South, spending some time in the North, it's like I say, it's refreshing, it's new, and we're getting hit with different kinds of cultures and just different kinds of customs and laws. The whole deal with sore wheels people and whatnot is interesting, but what I really enjoyed was with the skin eaters and the bitten and the rules of the slog. Just being introduced to the slog was a lot of fun, because if you are like a fresh and upcoming Bakker fan, you'll hear these hardcore and old school Bakker fans always throwing out the slog a slog quotes and comments, and you're a little like in the dark. But guess what, guys? All you got to do is get on out into Aspect Emperor, join up with the Skin Eaters, and you're in for the slog a slog, boys. And it's gonna be a chopper. The next thing I want to talk about is the magic in the book, because I do think that Bakker bumped it up a notch, at least in some areas. He also brings us some new stuff, like new elements, a new magical power known as the Judging Eye. Now, I'm not going to get too far into that because, hey, spoilers. But like I said, this is cool because we're getting deeper into this system, right? Like, we thought we knew it all, but no, we don't. And the Judging Eye is just another element of the unknown for us as the reader, and it's something for us Bakker Pac-Mans to nom 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 eat on up. As well as this cult, this anti-Anasarimber Kellis cult, really proposes like some magical elements of their own, but really, you know, the reader's going to get hit with that good old magic that they're used to. All that stuff that we saw in the Prince of Nothing trilogy, we'll see here as well. We'll see, Kellis and Akamian on full display. In fact, when we see Kellis for the first time as he makes his entrance, really like his first appearance for the reader, he damn near is a ball of magic. The imagery of it all will really burn into your brain. It's so fucking cool and on point, and it's something I noticed personally. Like I said, throughout this book, the magic, when it is on display, it is through the roof. Now, as much as I want to talk about the characters, I'm not. I'm going to leave them for my spoiler review, as well as just letting you guys know, if you haven't read the books, these characters are great. That's one of Bakker's strengths, is he writes some of the best uncompromising characters that I've ever read. But one I will get into is Incarial, or Cleric, because it goes by both names, and it did get a little confusing to me at first. But the reason why I want to get into this character is it's a non-man character, and they are so mysterious, and this addition to it really brings a little bit more knowledge to the reader, which is all I need from Bakker. I don't need all the answers, I just need a little bit more to string me along, and he really does with Incarial. But the one thing I love so much about this like non-man race, they're being ancient and driven mad by all the pain that they have witnessed and endured over the years. You feel that pain in the presence of these non-man characters, and Incarial is no different. Following Incarial Cleric, along the way, like when in his presence, I felt sad. I felt depressed. Like I could feel all that baggage that he's carrying around with him, and that was impressive. This is one of the many things that I love Bakker's writing for, is because he has a way of bringing the tragedy and the pain and the beauty of storytelling like off the page and into your fucking soul. And yes, this character certainly had some of those elements, man. That was just, just their presence made me, weak inside, made me want to cry a little bit. Now it's easy to see that I really enjoyed this book. And when I get like this level of enjoyment out of books, I really try to be, objective and critical of them, because I don't want them to be overly gushy reviews. So I do want to cover some stuff that I think that some people might struggle with. And I do think, one thing that I really loved about this book is that it felt like a Tolkien ride, but it felt like it was Bakker's own thing. But I do know that there are people out there that no matter what, if it at all resembles anything that Tolkien's done, then automatically the fucking writer's a hack and the story's a piece of shit ripoff, and almost guaranteed, guaranteed, there is a hypercritical person out there that is not gonna like this, just because it does mirror the Mines of Moria, like the Fellowship stuff, quite a bit. But like I said, I don't think that this is a Tolkien ripoff. I think that this is something that Bakker took and made it his own. He went above and beyond. my own personal opinion, just like that hypercritical guy saying, it's a ripoff. Another thing to mention would be, hey, Bakker's books have gotten that reputation for being misogynistic, to being severely unfair to women, not giving them advocacy. There's a lot of those arguments. And to most part, I don't argue with that because this is a misogynistic world. And if you saw my Prince of Nothing reviews, you know that this is something that I brought up because I do know, especially today, there are people that just do not want to read this kind of stuff. And that is understandable. I also want to add, though, I really do dig Anna Smith Sparks' perspective on this world and, everything being misogynistic. She said in an interview, it was like, Iowa is a misogynistic world, and that's the point. But the men of this world suffer for it. These men, not ever knowing love, will never know peace. They will forever be at each other's throats because of this erasure of women. And yes, like I said, we can go back and forth on the politics of all that, plenty. But one way or the other, it's still a very brutal place for women to live, even with the changes here in the 3 Cs. Another thing I gotta add, which I hate that I have to, but the fact that these books, or at least this one from the previous trilogy, feeling so vastly different in tone, might throw some people off. Like I said before, the hardcore Prince of Nothing fans could not like this, just rolling into it, because they might be looking for that crazy off-the-rails, introspective, deep, infinite layered fantasy, and what they get is an amazing fantasy story that's like a setup to like a journey, that is a bit different from probably what they were expecting. But nonetheless, personally, I found it once again an amazing ride. Now, as far as my 2 cents for the slow and the struggling, the funny thing is I would say that the judging eye is for you. Now, you might remember that I told you to pump your fucking brakes on the Prince of Nothing trilogy, but I do think what Bakker has done, even with his powerful prose, man, he's just made something that's more, like I said earlier, that's that tonal shift. You're jumping from something that's super philosophical and just introspective and brain melting into something that's much more of a straightforward fantasy journey. There's still lots of Bakker-esque stuff going on there. It's still multi-threaded and multi-layered. It's just not so overwhelming, I think, for you guys. This is stuff that you could digest. The problem being that this is set after Prince of Nothing, and I do not suggest that you guys skip Prince of Nothing. I think that you guys should still just get your workout on, get those reading muscles built up, devour the Prince of Nothing, thank me later, and then and then jump into the judging eye. And like I said, you will be amazed with probably how fast you begin to digest this story. All right, guys, as always, thanks for spending some time down here at the channel, and to R. Scott Bakker, a kadoosh, 2 thumbs up, salutes, thank you, sir. Man, rolling off the Prince of Nothing trilogy, I did not know what to expect coming into Aspect Emperor. And I have to say that I am surprised, but I'm also chomping at the bit now to see where it all goes. And also know that I have a Discord, and we have Prince of Nothing, Aspect Emperor channels on that Discord. By all means, feel free to hit me up on there, and I love to chat about this shit, so just hit us up. Anyway, also, if you're new, hey, please like and subscribe. It really helps me grow the channel. Tell a friend, tell a buddy, watch together. I don't give a shit. Just joking. I probably care a little bit. Anyway, you know what time it is. Peace.